you in the middle and do the motion.
Yeah.
So whoever's watching, you missed a lot of good stories because I didn't turn the recording on. But I can tell you that Rabbi Yaakov now has a site. It's called stories.inspiredbytorah.com. And you can go see his stories there.
Well,
Okay.
Only some of them. You don't put them all.
Some of them can. There's a lot more. We're putting them up slowly. Okay, so we were in the middle of the Maharal. We said the Maharal was the first one to claim against the philosophers,
Including the Rambam.
especially the Rambam. The Rambam was the biggest troublemaker. In terms of philosophy, he's the worst troublemaker.
Because he took Goyish philosophy.
Even when he was alive, people burnt his books. All the more so when he wasn't there to defend himself.
Yeah.
So what was his claim? His claim was, it shouldn't bother you that you can't define God. Okay? It shouldn't bother you. Because it says, Ki lo yirani adam v'chai. We just saw it 2 weeks ago. Man cannot see me and be alive. What do you mean by see me? See me, obviously, because Hashem doesn't have a body. We don't mean that. We don't mean see.
The whole
We
essence
mean,
of Hasidus is to try and understand Hashem.
okay. So we're not against that. But don't be bothered by the fact that you come up empty-handed in the end. Or, as the Baal Shem Tov says, define as much as you want, as long as you're willing to let go of the definition when it's over. And that's how the Baal Shem Tov defines it. You have to grab it, and then be willing to let it go, to start something new. You can't hold on to Hashem. Leit machshava tfisa b'chlal. And we saw that only the heart can.
What's wrong in the What's wrong in the Maharal's eyes? If we try and emulate Hashem, right? Hashem did loving kindness, he buried Moshe Rabbeinu. Hashem did loving kindness, he gave all the Rishon clothing. He did chesed.
Those are actions. Actions are not a problem.
But that's understanding Hashem's ways. Hashem is teaching.
That's Hashem's ways. That's His actions. That there's no problem with. There's no issue.
So what do the
when you're talking about essence, when you're talking about definition, you're not talking about actions. You're talking about who He is in and of Himself.
You
Before
define Him as somebody who does chesed.
So if that's all you do, then it's fine. That the Torah also does. But that's not defining Him. So who is doing the chesed? We're saying, yeah, he's a person who does. He's something that does chesed. Okay, so what is this something? Okay. Who's the agent? Who's acting? So he taught us, the Maharal, he was the first one to claim that the soul is greater than the mind, than the power of intellect, than the brain, certainly. והנה כמו כן יובן מזה נמשל למעלה בעניין 10 ספירות עליונות לגבי המאציל לאינסוף ברוך הוא, כמו שהוא למעלה כך הוא למטה בנפש. In the same way, similarly to how the Maharal explained the relationship between the soul in and of itself and its faculties, including the first faculty, the power of intellect, the same way is the relationship between God Himself and the 10 ספירות. שאפילו בחינת חוכמה העילה דאצילות היא רק בחינת כלי לבד לאור אין סוף ברוך הוא. Even the wisdom of the world of emanation is only a vessel for the infinite light of Hashem, meaning for the infinite revelation of Hashem. אבל אינה עצמיות של המאציל ברוך הוא, כי הוא פשוט בתכלית הפשיטות. But it is not in any sense the essence, the עצם of the emanator. Because he is simple in all simplicity, and what we mean is abstract in all abstraction. Okay? Pshitut is the opposite of hitpashtut. Very interesting. In Hebrew, there's a lot of roots that have two meanings which are opposite, like lesharesh ve'leashrish. Lesharesh means to root out. Leashrish means to take root. You can do that in English, by the way, with root, because you can root out something. Okay? But in Hebrew, it's the same root. No pun intended.
But I always thought the English rooted out means that you go to the root of the
Right,
problem.
and you take it from the root out.
It doesn't change the essence of the word root.
Correct. Right. You're treating it as a noun. That's one of the differences. We've talked about this in the past. One of the main differences between Hebrew and English is that in English, the noun comes before the verb. First you have a noun, then you make a verb out of the noun. And in Hebrew, it's the opposite. You have a verb, and you make nouns out of the verb. We've talked about that, about being that Hashem is first of all action. That's why verbs are more important in Hebrew than nouns. You could say that basically this goes back to the same question. What is Hashem? Is Hashem a verb or a noun? And whenever you try to describe him as a noun, you're in trouble. Whenever you try to describe him as an action, you're fine. You're on much more comfortable ground. So we have the same thing with the word pashut, pshat. That hitpashtut, we said, means extension, means change, and pshitut means abstraction, which is like no change, remaining constant and unchanging. But wisdom is already some kind of limit, it's some kind of definition. When it says in the Tikkunei Zohar, Ant Chakim velo b'chokhma yediyah, you are wise but not in the known wisdom, that's hashpala, that's lowering, bringing down Hashem. Because he, as it were, lowers himself, meaning diminishes from himself. No, not denigrate. No, shpil here is to diminish the amount of revelation that there is, in order to and garb himself in wisdom. And then in the world of emanation, it's called that he and his life and his bones, really, but it means his vessels are one.
Just 1 second. When did we stop quoting the Maharil and when did we start?
Long time ago. The Maharil was just 2 lines.
When did the Alter Rebbe start moving?
2 lines.
Straight away.
Yeah.
So then why did the Alter Rebbe quote the Maharal?
Because he was the first one to say this about the soul. Okay. And then he was also the first one to connect it to God. The same question.
But if the Maharal was basically opposed to the Rambam and philosophy, and the Alter Rebbe wasn't, so why did the Alter Rebbe quote the Maharal? It seems a strange thing that he quotes someone who says what he's trying to do is basically wrong. The Alter Rebbe is trying to understand Hashem. The Maharal says you're not supposed to.
Maharal doesn't think that you're not supposed to. Maharal just says that you can't. He's not necessarily against trying. He just says it's not an issue. It's not an issue at all. You can do whatever you want, but you're going to come up empty-handed, and that's fine, because you have the same thing with yourself, with the soul. It's exactly the same thing. There's no real difference. So it's okay. Don't worry about it. That's what he's saying. And again, he's the first one who said this, so I don't know.
Because the Maharal, if you're learning to see this, you're wasting your time. It's Bittel's man.
No, Maharal quoted a lot. Even in the Tanya, when it says "Mipi Sofrim and Mipi Sfarim," Sofrim are the Magid and the Baal Shem Tov, and Sfarim is usually the Maharal. That's how it's understood. The Alter Rebbe was a descendant of the Maharal. He held from him very much. But again, in the time of the Maharal, there was no Chassidus yet. So because there was no Chassidus, there was no way to put in context the relationship between Kabbalah and philosophy.
So where was the Abarbanel in all this?
What?
The Abarbanel wasn't writing things that are like Chassidus?
Abarbanel is completely philosophy. He has no Kabbalah. At least as far as I know. He has some early Kabbalah, but he doesn't. Again, for me the question is why the Maharal doesn't bring the Arizal. That's already a real serious question. I don't know.
Maybe he never saw it.
What?
Maybe he never saw it.
I have something about it. I didn't have time to look yesterday. I wanted to look, and then when I had to go out with my wife for a long time, and just didn't have time when I came back. I'll look at it today. I'll see what. The person, the go-to person for all these questions is Yosef Avivi. He's the greatest scholar today of the Arizal's writings.
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't mean he necessarily understands them, but he's the greatest academic scholar. From a historical document point of view, he's done the most research, and those 3 big volumes over there, it says Kabbalat Ha'ari in the corner.
Yeah.
That's his monumental work. Very gifted researcher.
Where does he live?
In Arnof, I think. He used to live in Shari Chesed, but he moved a long time ago. Anyway. וכמו שכתוב בספר של, שמשפיל את עצמו, ואזי הוא כן, ולא כמו התלבשות הנפש בשכל, מקום הוא רק לי, and it's not even the way that, meaning the way that God engarbs himself in wisdom is not even the way that the soul engarbs itself in the power of intellect. In any case, in both cases, it's just a vessel. וכמו שכתוב בספר של בינונים, it says in Tanya in chapter 2, דמה שכתב הרמב"ם הוא המדע והוא היודע. Now we're coming to the machlokus with the Rambam, to the dispute with the Rambam. The Rambam, what was their problem? That he said, following the scholastic understanding of intent, that thought is intentional. What do we mean by thought is intentional? That there is the power of intellect, and the power of intellect is holding within itself some thought. Meaning there is an object of thought. And that's the yadua. The mada is the power of intellect. And there's somebody who's containing them both, which is the yodea, the one who knows. So you have the yodea, the subject. You have the object of thought, the yadua, the known. And you have the mada, which is the power of thought, or the power of intellect. And here, and it says Alter Rebbe in the Tanya, what did I write? Vodu lo chachmei Kabbalah. In the end, the sages of Kabbalah agreed with the Rambam. Who agreed? The Arizal. That's who he means. Why? Because what the Rambam is talking about, that you can talk about Hashem being three different aspects: the knower, the known, and the power of knowledge. That you can even talk about this, about Hashem having all three aspects. Doesn't matter the fact that the Rambam says in the end they're all one. That doesn't help. Because you can't say, understand, from a Kabbalistic point of view, you can't say Hashem is the table, and he's the chair, and he's this and that, and they're all one. You can't get away with that. That doesn't work. You can't say things like that. Because the moment that you said he's this, he's this, he's this, you've divided them up. So what does it matter that afterwards you tell me that he's all one? Yeah, you haven't helped me very much, because now you've just split him up, and Hashem is one. So what are you talking about? So says the Arizal, where is this true? זהו דווקא בהתלבשות אור אינסוף ברוך הוא על ידי צמצומים רבים בכלים דחב"ד האצילות אך לא למעלה מהאצילות. So, for this express purpose, we have something called the world of emanation. The world of emanation comes after a lot of diminishing of Hashem's light, called tzimtzum, contraction. And in the world of emanation, because the light is diminished, it can appear in different vessels. And then the knower, the known, and the power of knowledge become chabad. They become wisdom, understanding, and knowledge of the world of emanation. But above emanation, you can't talk about it, says the Alter Rebbe. But the Maharal, who didn't have their Arizal, what does he say? Nowhere have we found that the sages called God the mind, may he be blessed. The intellect, blessed he is. Nothing like that. What do they call him? The Holy One, may he be blessed. Why? Because you can't know him. So what can you say about it? You can only say, I can't know him. How do you say that? You say the Holy One. Why? שהוא נבדל מכל גשם וגוף מכל הנמצאים, אז זה נאמר הקדוש ברוך הוא, שעניין קדוש נאמר מישהו נבדל. Because to say about somebody that's holy, that he's holy, or something that it's holy, is to say that it's removed from regular experience. It's separate. Because he is simple beyond all measure, he's abstract beyond all abstraction, and so on. And therefore, the sages always called him the Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, may he be blessed. Okay? Or the way that I like the translation, the Holy Blessed One. May he be blessed doesn't sound too good. It's like you're saying, we hope that he's blessed. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not saying, may he be blessed. It says, he is blessed. So the correct translation is, the Holy Blessed One. That's the right way to say it. Yuyan Sham, she'erich lasig legamre al da'at HaRambam. So you can look there and see that the Maharal completely unfounds the Maimonides' opinion about this division of dividing, as it were, the knower, the known, and the power of knowledge in God. Omnam lefi kabbalat Arizal, but according to the Arizal, according to this Oleshe divrei shneim emet. So you can see that both are right. The Maharal's right, and the Maimonides is right. Why? When it comes to the infinite revelation of Hashem, there you can't talk about wisdom at all. All the more so you can't say that he engarbs himself in wisdom. There's no wisdom there even. You can't even talk about wisdom.
Where is the wisdom?
In the infinite. Beyond the world of emanation. Anywhere you go up.
Before Tzilus?
Before Tzilus. Anything before Tzilus, there's no ability. I don't know. Before Tzilus, you can talk about wisdom. He's saying here, in the Ein Sof itself, in the infinite itself, there you can't talk about anything. That's like saying that in infinity, we can talk about the number 8. And we'll do infinity plus 8 equals a little bit more than infinity. That's meaningless. That's a bunch of nonsense. Because infinity, even though it contains all the numbers, you can't separate them out. You can't do math like that. It doesn't work. Okay? Because there, in relation to the infinite, wisdom is like action. It's completely not shayach. It doesn't connect. And that's why, according to the Maharal, like we read, that's why Hashem is called the Holy, Blessed One. ומכל מקום בהתלבשות או אינסוף, על ידי צמצומים רבים בכלים לחב"ד האצילות. But when the infinite light, the infinite revelation of Hashem is engarbed through many, many contractions. So it's not talking about just about one contraction. Okay? It's not the first contraction the Arizal is talking about. There's many, many on the way also, which are all kinds of diminishing of the light of the revelation. Bekelim de Chabad Atzilut, and it comes into the vessels of the intellectual faculties of the world of emanation, because there in the world of emanation, he and his life and his vessels are all one. Okay? The life is like the O. There's etzem, or, v'kli. Right? There's the thing in and of itself. That's the etzem. There is the light, the revelation of the thing in and of itself, and the vessel. So the question: is a watermelon red on the inside before you cut it open? And what's the answer? The answer is the thing in and of itself is the same, whether you open it or keep it closed. It's the same thing. It hasn't changed. But the light is different. Because as long as there isn't any ability for the thing on the inside to express itself, so it's one thing. And once you open it and it can express itself, it's something else. So we have the state before there's light, before there's revelation, and the state after there's revelation. And there you can argue that it's changed. In the revelation, you can argue about change. You can make this into a point. You can say, yes, it's been changed. The vessel remains the same. What's the vessel? The vessel will be like, for instance, my eyes that receive the light from the watermelon. Okay? So the vessel, in a certain sense, before you open the watermelon, I didn't know what to say. It's a little bit like the...
Well, what color is a watermelon on the inside?
That's a question that means nothing.
No, it's red, right?
No.
When you've opened it, it's red.
Yeah. But then it's not on the inside anymore.
And if a person who's blind, all they know,
Yeah.
it's still red. So it's got nothing to do with the sight. It's something which is intrinsic of its own.
Of course. And yet still, as long as the watermelon has not been opened, you don't know what the color is.
Yes, you do, because Hashem created it red inside.
No, the watermelons are green. I'll show you a watermelon that's green. So what? Again, the question isn't what is it ontologically, objectively. The question is what is revealed. As long as the watermelon's not open, there's no revelation. As long as Hashem didn't appear in the world of emanation, there's no revelation of Hashem. I'm simplifying, but that's the idea. Okay, there are revelations of Hashem before the world of emanation, but not for the normal human mind. But there are revelations of Hashem. But really, for us, all the revelation starts from the world of emanation. Until emanation, you can't say anything about Hashem. He's not like this, you don't know. That's what he's saying here. That above emanation, there's no definition. There's nothing at all. Should you throw away the world of emanation? Should you throw it away? Chas v'shalom, why would you throw it away? It's a good thing. You have to live with the world of emanation.
Why do you said that there is essence of Hashem once you get into Atzilus. So what does Atzilus done to you?
When you go above Atzilus, there's still some revelation. But it's not the same type of revelation that you and I would call revelation. It's more like a thought experiment. It's not an actual revelation of Hashem. But it's hard to say. If I'm thinking now about Hashem's qualities above the world of emanation, does that mean that that's meaningless because I'm only thinking about it and it can't be revealed? No, you could say that the very fact that I'm thinking about it, that's already a revelation of sorts. It's already revealing in some way. But the person thinking about something himself, like for instance, if I think about ice cream now, can you enjoy the ice cream? No, but I can.
But I can't enjoy the ice cream even when you're eating it.
Why? You can take it from me and then enjoy it. Or, let's say you're a mother and you watch your children eat, or you have a restaurant, you watch the clientele eat. So you get some enjoyment from it. It's something. You can gain from it. But if it's just in my head, can you get anything from it? Nothing at all. But to some extent, that's already a revelation of Hashem. You have to call that revelation at some level. That's pretty much the answer that the Rebbe Rashab, whose Yortzeit is today, he gives a 9 base. The long answer, the short form of 9 base is that there are 10 sfirot before the world of emanation, and they're like thinking about 10 sfirot. Okay. Instead of making them, it's like just thinking about it. That's the short answer. That's the short version of all of 9 base. That's what he says in the end. Obviously, there's a lot more to it, but in short, that's what it means. Let's see. So the Arizal solved the problem. Okay? You can say this and that, and like we said, so here he gives the credit to the Arizal, but like I said yesterday, the credit really goes to the Baal Shem Tov. Because this problem wasn't really solved until the Baal Shem Tov came along. In any case, זהו מה שכתב הרמב"ם, שהוא המדע והוא היודע, ובמאמר התיקונים, מעט חכים ולא חוכמה ידיעה, ואם כן, מכל זה מובן שכתוב שהחוכמה הוא רק כלי לאור אינסוף ברוך הוא. In any case, what we get from this is that wisdom is only a vessel for the infinite light. In the same way, wisdom, the power of intellect, is only a vessel for the neshama, for the psyche, for the soul. Okay. We're going to skip the parentheses. והנה, לפיכך, בחינת ומדרגת מסירת נפש, הוא עניין הביטול במציאות ממש לאינסוף ברוך הוא, נמשך דווקא מצד עצמיות הנפש. So we had this whole introduction to say this sentence. What does the sentence say? It says, when we talk about self-sacrifice, self-nullification, what we mean to say is that self-nullification or self-sacrifice, they come from the etzem of the psyche. They come from the psyche in and of itself before it's even been engarbed in wisdom. Okay. It's very important. That we're not just talking about that a person is wise to the point where they understand their limits. No, if that's what you're saying, then it's limits still. I want to get to a place that's before there are limits. And that's real Mesiras Nefesh. That's real giving myself over when I learn. Okay? Well, I added a word that I shouldn't have added, but that's where he's going. That when I learn, there should be an element of going beyond what I don't understand. To be wise is certainly to understand what my limits of understanding are. A person who's wise knows what he doesn't understand. But to truly self-sacrifice in learning, to sacrifice the self completely, to truly learn without any sense of self, that's beyond wisdom. That goes back to the essence of the soul, which is only engarbed in wisdom. So it means that there's some kind of connection to wisdom, but really you have to go beyond wisdom. It's not enough to just be bittul, in the sense of just being aware of your limits. That's not enough. You need more than that. Okay, let's see. שלמעלה מהשכל, שבתהילה לעצמיות אינסוף ברוך הוא, שלמעלה מעל גם כן מהחוכמה כביטול הנר והאבוקה. And here what we mean is, in the same way that a candle is nothing compared to a torch, in the same way, the person's intellect should be nothing compared to the soul. אבל לא די בבחינת השכל שבנפש לבד, מאחר שאינו רק כלי, וגם מקור החוכמה הוא כלי בלבד לאלוקות, וזהו בכל נפשך ממש, ולא בבחינת לבושים לבד, מחשבה דיבור מעשה. And so this is the second meaning of בכל נפשך, with all your psyche, with all your soul, where we mean not the mind, not the intellect in which the soul is engarbed, but the soul in and of itself. So when it says that you should love God with all of your soul, it means going beyond even wisdom. Okay? It means that learning Torah for the sake of knowing is not going to help you. You have to go beyond that. So here in the side note, I think this is Tzemach Tzedek, I don't think it's him. Why is there no reason in the Torah for the requirement to sacrifice oneself? The only reason that's given is for love. You should love God, your God, because He is your life. So because He's your life, you should love Him. But it doesn't say that because He is everything, you should sacrifice yourself. That it doesn't say. Self-sacrifice, by definition, is beyond wisdom. It's beyond the ability to give reasons for things. In other words, if you have a reason for self-sacrifice, it's not self-sacrifice. Good. If the guy is willing to sacrifice his life in battle because he wants to be remembered, he wants to be
a hero.
He wants this, and somebody said, "Oh, what a fool! He's not going to enjoy it." Not such a fool. Everybody in the end dies. As one famous movie said once, "You get to be the one who dies saving the world." Good. It's a claim to fame. People want that. They don't want to go down without being remembered at all, without having anything. Why should they? So there's a reason. If there's a reason, that's not self-sacrifice. That's not what's called self-sacrifice. Self-sacrifice is when there's no reason, because reasons are always belong to wisdom. Okay? That's one of the when we correspond the senses of the soul to the four letters of God's name. So wisdom and yud is tam, it's taste. But taste in Hebrew also means reason. And then the bina is hearing usually. And then the yetzira or the vav is usually smell. And the hey, the malchus, that's usually either taste, and sometimes it's taste, and then the yud is eyesight, is sight. But if we took taste into yud, into the emanation, into the chokhmah, then the malchus is touch. If we put sight in wisdom, so where does reason go, or where does taste go? It goes up to the crown. It's the chokhmah stima. It's where all the reasons come from. Okay, in any case. So reasons have to do with wisdom. And since the whole idea of self-sacrifice is above wisdom, so there's no reason to give him. Okay, that's an aside. So now we're getting to the ikar. The main point is, what happens to you when you learn Torah? What are you on when you learn Torah? וגם מה שכתוב ודיברת בה מיד לאחר בכל מאודיך. It also says you should speak in them. Speak in what? In words of Torah. Right after it says with all of your might. What's the problem here? Because if bechol levavcha is with all your heart, and bechol nafshecha we just explained is self-sacrifice, bechol modecha is even more. So how can there be v'dibarta bam after that? What does that mean? What does it mean to speak words of Torah and not have any kind of self? What does that mean? How can you learn Torah? So we already explained once that v'dibarta bam velo bidvarim betelim, that the requirement of learning Torah, that you should be constantly speaking words of Torah, is that just be words of Torah and not empty words. But there's no reason given there, or there's no stipulation given there that you have to understand what you're saying. So that's what we started with. That this is all based on a mimer that he said 7 years earlier. And there he explained that, for instance, in Mikra, when it comes to learning Bible, so you can read without understanding. So that's called v'dibarta. That's the general idea. In any case, how can you say that the great love, the great infinite love, will come down to dwell in the person if he's only speaking? And if he's only speaking means he's not understanding. So from everything we explained, we'll now be able to answer this question. Meaning, in other words, if all I'm doing when I'm doing v'dibarta bam is I'm just speaking and not necessarily understanding, there's no intellect going on, it's just the act. How can that act serve as any kind of vessel, so any kind of anything, for as a conduit for the great love that Hashem is giving me as a result? And again, great love is a connection all the time. If I don't understand what I'm saying, why would I be connected? What kind of a connection would it create? גם בפירוש בכל נפשך שהוא מסירת נפש ממש, וידוע שיש גם כן עוד פירוש בכל נפשך, הוא given בשעי הנפש. And we already said, okay, that even in with all your soul, there are two different explanations. One which he said before, that it's self-sacrifice, it's even above self-sacrifice. And the other one is that it's with the three garments of the soul, thought, speech, and action. לקשרם במחשבה דיבור מעשה של הקדוש ברוך הוא על ידי עסק התורה והמצוות, ואם כן, איך שני הפירושים האלה שבתיבות בכל נפשך שייכים זה לזה? How do these two go together? Because doing something, loving Hashem, or meditating on Hashem with thought, speech, and action, that's a very concrete thing. But to meditate on Hashem, and you're telling me that it should be in self-sacrifice, how can you draw with no sense of self? There's nothing concrete there. How do these two explanations go together? We already know the answer, because he said, really, they do go together. That's the whole point. Okay, so let's see how we build it. Huh? We're there? Okay. When are we learning tomorrow?
Tomorrow's Tuesday. 8 o'clock for work.
Yeah. Very good. So tomorrow we'll see how he brings it together.
Okay. Now I have to bring down the what's called the series, the practice.